You meet someone. Suddenly, you can't stop thinking about them. Your heart races when they text. You replay conversations in your head. You feel alive in a way you haven't felt in years. You're convinced this is special, that they're different, that this could be everything. But here's what's actually happening. Your brain is flooding with chemicals that are designed to make you obsessed. You're not experiencing clarity. You're experiencing a neurological hijacking. Falling in love isn't some mystical, inexplicable phenomenon. It's psychology. It's biology. It's your brain running a program that's been refined over millions of years to make you bond, reproduce, and stay attached long enough to raise offspring. That doesn't make it less real, but it does make it less magical than you think. Because the euphoria you're feeling, the certainty that this person is the one, the inability to see their flaws, that's not insight. That's chemicals. Your brain is lying to you in very specific, predictable ways. And understanding how it's lying helps you navigate what comes next. The chemistry that creates obsession. The illusion phase where you see perfection that doesn't exist. And the reality test when the chemicals fade and you find out if there's anything real underneath. Subscribe to that stoic stick because we break down the psychology behind what you're feeling, not just a fantasy you want to believe. Let's decode falling in love. 1. The chemistry of attraction. Falling in love feels transcendent, but strip away the poetry, and here's what's actually happening. Your brain is being flooded with chemicals that override rational thought and create obsession. It's not magic, it's neurochemistry. And the chemicals involved are the same ones associated with addiction and reward-seeking behavior. Start with dopamine, the neurotransmitter of desire and reward. When you're newly attracted to someone, your brain releases dopamine in massive quantities. This is the same chemical that spikes when you eat good food, win money, or use cocaine. Dopamine makes you crave the other person. It creates that obsessive thinking, that inability to focus on anything else, that constant checking your phone. You're not being romantic. You're experiencing a dopamine-driven reward loop. Brain scans of people in love show activity in the same regions that light up in cocaine addicts. Early-stage love feels like addiction because neurologically it is. Then there's oxytocin, the bonding chemical. Released during physical touch, sex, and intimate moments, oxytocin creates attachment and trust. It's released in massive amounts during orgasm, which is why sex accelerates emotional bonding even when you barely know someone. Your brain doesn't distinguish between casual sex and meaningful intimacy. The oxytocin release happens either way, creating feelings of attachment that might not be warranted. Oxytocin also suppresses the amygdala, your brain's threat detection system. This is why you ignore red flags. Your alarm system is chemically muted. Paradoxically, falling in love also spikes cortisol, the stress hormone. Your body is in a state of heightened arousal. You're anxious, on edge. Every interaction feels high stakes. This isn't insecurity. It's cortisol creating vigilant excitement. These chemicals create different types of attraction. Lust is driven by sex hormones, raw, physical, non-specific. Attraction is dopamine-driven obsession with a specific person. Attachment is oxytocin creating long-term bonding. Most people experience these as one feeling, but neurologically they're distinct. You can feel lust without attraction, attraction without attachment. The ideal relationship involves all three, but they don't always align. Here's the critical insight. None of these chemicals care about compatibility or long-term potential. They just fire, creating feelings that seem meaningful but might be entirely disconnected from reality. This is why people fall in love with the wrong people. The chemistry feels like truth, but it's just chemistry. 2. The illusion phase. When you're falling in love, the person you're falling for isn't real. You're not seeing them as they are. You're seeing an idealized projection that your brain has constructed, emphasizing their best qualities and erasing their flaws. This isn't conscious deception. Your brain is chemically incapable of objective assessment during early attraction. The illusion phase isn't a bug. It's a feature designed to make you bond before logic can interfere. Here's what's happening neurologically. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for critical judgment, gets suppressed. At the same time, reward centers light up. You're experiencing reduced critical thinking and heightened reward response simultaneously. Your brain is optimized for bonding, not assessment. This is why red flags become invisible. You're not ignoring them. You genuinely can't see them. Your brain filters information through a positivity bias. When they do something questionable, your mind generates excuses. They're just stressed. They didn't mean it that way. You rationalize away behavior that in anyone else you'd immediately recognize as problematic. Psychologists call this the halo effect. When you perceive someone as attractive in one area, you unconsciously assume they're positive in all areas. They're physically attractive, so you assume they're also kind, intelligent, trustworthy. You have one good conversation, so you project that they're deep, emotionally available, compatible in every way. You're not gathering evidence. You're filling gaps with optimistic assumptions. Brain imaging studies show that when people look at photos of someone they love, the areas responsible for critical social assessment literally shut down. You're not capable of seeing them clearly. This is the same neural mechanism that makes parents overlook their children's flaws, unconditional positive regard. But in romantic contexts, it means you're bonding with an illusion, not a person. You also project onto them. They make a vague comment, and you interpret it as profound. They show basic kindness, and you decide they're extraordinarily compassionate. The less you know about someone, the easier it is to project perfection. Ambiguity becomes a canvas for your fantasies. This is why people say they fell in love with the idea of someone. That's not a metaphor. Your brain constructed an ideal based on limited data, and you emotionally attach to that construction. You were in love with a hypothesis, not a human. And when the illusion eventually collides with reality, that's when you find out if there's anything real underneath. 3. The reality test. Eventually, the chemicals wear off. The dopamine storm fades. The person who consumed your thoughts becomes less overwhelming. You can focus on other things. The intensity disappears. And this moment, this transition, is where most relationships either deepen into real love or fall apart entirely. Because once the neurological high ends, you're left with a choice. Do you love this person, or did you just love the feeling they gave you? Here's what real love looks like after the chemicals fade. It's not butterflies. It's not constant excitement. Real love is calm. It's choosing them on the days when they're annoying. It's staying when the initial thrill is gone and you're left with someone who's flawed, human, and ordinary. Infatuation is passive. It happens to you, but love is active. It's a series of choices to stay present, to communicate, to work through conflict, to prioritize the relationship, even when it's not exciting. Infatuation asks nothing except to feel. Love asks everything: patience, empathy, compromise, effort. The reality test also reveals whether you were in love with a person or an idea. During infatuation, you project everything you want onto them. But when the chemicals clear, the real person becomes visible. Not the version you imagined, but who they actually are. And for many people, that's disappointing. They mourn the fantasy and resent the person for not living up to it. This is why relationships end with, "You're not who I thought you were." That's not an accusation, it's an admission. You never knew them. You were in love with a projection. So can the feeling last? The dopamine-driven obsession is designed to fade. Your brain can't function long-term in that state. But connection, intimacy, and attraction can absolutely last. They just look different. The butterflies become trust. The obsession becomes security. It's not worse, it's different. And people who expect the intensity to last forever are chasing something that doesn't exist. Real love isn't the absence of feeling. It's the presence of choice. It's knowing someone fully, their flaws, their patterns, their damage, and choosing to build with them anyway. It's not being blinded by chemistry. It's seeing clearly and staying. When the high is gone and you're standing in front of a regular, flawed human, do you still choose them? Because if the answer is yes, then what you have isn't infatuation. It's love. So that's the psychology of falling in love. The chemistry that hijacks your brain with dopamine, oxytocin, and cortisol, making you obsessed, attached, and anxious all at once. The illusion phase where your critical thinking shuts down and you project perfection onto someone you barely know. And the reality test when the chemicals fade and you discover whether you love the person or just love the feeling. Falling in love isn't mystical, it's biological. Your brain is running an evolutionary program designed to make you bond before logic can interfere. And understanding that doesn't make love less real, it just makes it less mysterious. The euphoria you feel isn't clarity, it's chemistry. The person you think is perfect isn't perfect. You're just chemically incapable of seeing their flaws yet. And the intensity you're experiencing won't last forever because your brain can't sustain that level of neurological chaos. But here's what matters. Real love begins when the chemicals wear off. When the illusion cracks and you see the actual person standing in front of you, flawed, ordinary, human, and you choose them anyway. That's not infatuation, that's partnership. That's the decision to build something real after the high is gone. Most people never get there. They chase the dopamine hit from person to person, mistaking chemical intensity for compatibility. They leave the moment it stops feeling magical, not realizing that magic was never sustainable. But the ones who stay, who transition from infatuation to choice, who love clearly instead of blindly, they're the ones who experience something deeper than the fall. If this gave you a new lens on what you're feeling, drop a comment and tell me where you are in this process. And subscribe to that Stoic Stick for psychology that cuts through the fantasy and shows you what's actually real. Stay curious, stay honest, And remember, falling in love is chemistry. Staying in love is choice.